Hey guys, Tech Blast here with a video on this $1,500 Dell laptop from 2015. It has an Intel i7 5500U with a turbo speed of 3 GHz and 8 GB of DDR3 RAM. However, it can be equipped with up to 16. Now let's talk about design. This laptop has an aluminum chassis weighing 4.65 pounds. For ports, it has HDMI 1.4, one USB 2.0 port, and a headphone jack. On the other side, it features two USB 3.0 ports, an SD card slot, and a Kensington lock. Cooling this laptop is two 60mm fans, and for storage, we have a 1TB hard drive. The hinges are slightly tight as it lifts the whole body of the laptop up along with the screen, and the keyboard is a little bit small for the laptop. For our first benchmark, we chose Rocket League because it was the smallest game in my Steam library. It still took 3 hours to download. Anyways, performance doesn't make up for the slow hard drive, getting only 15 frames per second average. The only reason why it shows 15 frames per second, yet it tops out at 30 twice, is because of the lows right after you score. Keep in mind, this is on all low settings, proving that this ancient discrete GPU we have doesn't do much over the standard Intel integrated GPU. This integrated GPU is the Intel HD 5500, and the reason why some of the games ran slowly until I changed the settings up was that it actually ran on integrated settings because the GPU in this system was so old, some games barely even recognized it. However, for Rocket League, the game did recognize the GPU, and this is why we're getting better performance settings than usual. This display is amazing. It's a 15-inch 4K touchscreen IPS display, but it's somewhat ruined by this stupidly slow AMD R7 M265 with a turbo speed of a blazing 900 MHz. The next test is Csgo on Dust 2, where on the low settings, we get a laggy 20 frames per second average. Highs stick to 30, but lows are down to around 10 frames per second while shooting. Pay attention to the muzzle flashes from the M249 I chose. They are just one big lump of white flashes, and it's pretty hard to aim your shot correctly. One thing I can comment on is that the keyboard is good for productivity and not really for gaming. It has a nice clicky feel, but it has way less key travel than usual. However, the white backlight is pretty bright, which is a strong plus. Speaking of strong pluses, this hard drive is definitely not one of them. This experience probably would have been better if it was a 7200 RPM drive instead of 5400, but oh well. The higher end model of this laptop had a 240GB SSD as a boot drive, so that probably would be better, although it's much more expensive to have an SSD. The last performance test is Csgo on Nuke. For some odd reason, Cinebench and Heaven Benchmark were not loading up, despite this machine having the hardware requirements. Cinebench was crashing mid-run, and Heaven Benchmark would not start at all. Despite these issues, Csgo still runs perfectly fine, but for the price tag of $1,500 back in 2015, I am not impressed by the performance. The CPU is great, but the GPU bottlenecks it harder than a hoverboard with a car engine stuck to the back of it. More issues to talk about with this laptop. The trackpad is a little finicky, the touchscreen is not sensitive enough, and the 4K display is automatically set to 1080p. The only way to activate it is by switching the battery preservation mode from power saving to performance. However, battery life is not that good, even with a 1080p display on. I got 5 hours with it on power saving and 3 hours on performance. Like I said before, this is a $1,500 laptop from just 5 years ago. I'd expect much more performance from a ginormous laptop like this. The only reason why I'm getting bad battery performance is because the battery has deteriorated heavily over the past 5 years of heavy use. Now for the boot test. This computer can be optioned out with an additional 240GB SSD, but this is the base model with just the standard hard disk and 8GB of RAM. Despite these limitations, we still get a boot time of 40.62 seconds. This is good if you have all the time in the world to wait for programs to load, but for the other 98% of the population, just swap out the hard drive for a SATA SSD, so load times are much faster. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this format of review, let me know in the comments. Follow my Instagram and Twitter linked in the description for updates on videos before they come out. Comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. This has been Tech Blast, signing out.